The familiar sound of the TV news filled our modest living room as I loosened my tie after another long day showing properties. Real estate wasn't glamorous work, but it paid the bills and gave us a comfortable life in our suburban neighborhood. I glanced over at her, curled up on the couch in her usual spot, scrolling mindlessly through social media with a bored expression I'd been noticing more frequently lately. 7 years of the same routine, I thought to myself. Work, dinner, TV, sleep, repeat. The predictability had its comforts, but lately, I'd been wondering if it was enough for her. You got another message from Tanya, I mentioned, recognizing the notification that popped up on her phone. Your old college roommate, right? Wouldn't you two used to be inseparable? She looked up, surprised. Yeah, she's been trying to get me to meet up with her and some of the old group. They get together every few weeks apparently. Why don't you go? I suggested, sitting beside her. It might be good for you to reconnect, get out of the house for something other than grocery shopping. The hesitation in her eyes was immediate. I don't know. It's been years. I probably wouldn't fit in with them anymore. They're all still living that single lifestyle, while I've been here, keeping our home together. Exactly why you should go, I pressed gently. When's the last time you did something just for yourself? You're always taking care of everything here. One night out won't hurt. For years, I'd watched her pour herself into making our house a home. While I appreciated her dedication, I sometimes worried she'd lost herself in the process. The vibrant woman who once had dreams of traveling and writing had gradually faded into someone whose biggest weekly excitement was finding good deals at the farmer's market. Maybe you're right, she finally conceded. They're meeting this Friday. I could stop by for just an hour or two. Friday came, and the transformation was subtle but noticeable. She spent extra time on her hair, dug out makeup that had been collecting dust, and even asked to borrow my credit card for a quick trip to the mall for something more appropriate to wear. How do I look? She asked that evening, standing before me in a dress I'd never seen before. Nothing scandalous, but definitely not her usual style. Something about seeing her dressed up, ready to step out without me, stirred a strange mix of pride and unease. Beautiful, I answered truthfully. Have fun. Don't worry about rushing back. The kiss she gave me before leaving felt different somehow. More alive. I spent the evening catching up on paperwork, surprised when midnight came and went with no message from her. When she finally came through the door at 2 a.m., there was a glow about her I hadn't seen in years. Sorry I'm late, she gushed, kicking off her heels. We just got to talking and dancing, and I completely lost track of time. It was amazing to catch up with everyone. I smiled, genuinely happy to see her so animated. I'm glad you had a good time. They want me to come out again next week, she added, almost cautiously, watching for my reaction. Of course, I answered. You deserve to have friends and fun. That was 6 weeks ago. What had started as an occasional night out had quickly become a twice, then 3 times weekly occurrence. The woman who once complained about having to make small talk at my office parties now lived for these outings. Her phone constantly buzzed with group chat notifications, and our conversations increasingly revolved around people I'd never met. You're going out again tonight? I finally asked one Tuesday evening as she hurried to get ready. That's the 3rd time this week. Is that a problem? Her tone carried a defensive edge I wasn't used to hearing. No, I barely see you anymore. I thought tonight we could have dinner together, talk about that vacation we've been putting off. She barely glanced at me while applying her lipstick. We can talk about it tomorrow. Tanya's picking me up in 15 minutes. The vacation you've been asking about for 3 years, and suddenly it can wait another day? I pressed, frustration finally surfacing. What's going on with you lately? It's like you've become a completely different person. She turned to face me, her expression hardening. Maybe I have. Maybe I'm finally living a little instead of just existing in this house. Isn't that what you wanted when you practically pushed me out the door to meet them? The accusation stung. I encouraged you to reconnect with friends, not to abandon our marriage. Abandon? She scoffed. That's dramatic. I'm just having some fun. You should be happy I'm not under your feet all the time anymore. Before I could respond, her phone chimed. That's my ride. Don't wait up. The door closed behind her with a finality that left me standing alone in our bedroom, surrounded by scattered clothes she hadn't bothered to put away and the lingering scent of a perfume I didn't recognize. Something was happening to my once predictable life, and for the first time in our marriage, I felt completely powerless to stop it. The changes continued to escalate over the following weeks. Our joint bank account showed transactions at boutiques and salons I'd never heard of. The woman who once claimed designer labels were a waste of good money now regularly dropped hundreds on outfits I never even saw her wear at home. Her phone became her most prized possession, password protected and never out of reach. I tried to be understanding. Perhaps this was just her making up for lost time, finding herself after years of domestic routine. But the distance between us grew wider with each passing day. Our once comfortable silences became tense standoffs. Intimacy had become a rare occurrence, usually initiated by me and met with what felt like obligation rather than desire. "We need to talk," I finally said one Sunday morning. She'd come home at 3 a.m., and I pretended to be asleep when she crawled into bed smelling of alcohol and smoke. "About what?" she answered, not looking up from her phone as she sat across from me at our kitchen table. The breakfast I'd made sat untouched before her. "About whatever the hell is happening to our marriage," I replied, keeping my voice level despite the frustration building inside me. "You're barely present anymore. When you are home, you're either getting ready to leave or recovering from the night before." This got her attention. "So I'm not allowed to have a social life? Is that it?" "That's not what I said," I countered. "But there's a difference between having friends and completely changing your life overnight. You don't talk to me anymore. You spend money we've worked hard to save without discussion. You come home at hours that would have worried you sick if I did the same." She set her phone down, her expression hardening. "I spent years of my life catering to your needs, making sure this house was perfect, dinner was ready, your shirts were ironed. The one time I decide to do something for myself, you can't handle it." "That's not fair," I shot back. "I never asked you to be my maid. I encouraged you to pursue your writing, to find work if you wanted. Hell, I'm the one who suggested you reconnect with your friends in the first place. And now you regret it because you've lost control," she sneered. "You liked me better when I was just here waiting for you, with no life of my own." The accusation hit like a physical blow. "Is that really what you think of me? Of us? That our relationship was about control?" "I think," she said, standing up, "that you're jealous because I'm finally having fun while you're stuck in the same boring routine. These people make me feel alive again. And I don't." The question hung in the air between us. She grabbed her phone and turned away. "I'm going for a walk. I can't do this right now." The front door slammed, leaving me alone with cold coffee and unanswered questions. This wasn't about friends or social life. Something deeper was happening, and the pit in my stomach told me exactly what it might be. That night, after another tense dinner of minimal conversation, I watched her getting ready in the bathroom. The transformation was striking. New hairstyle, makeup techniques I'd never seen her use before, clothes that seemed designed to attract attention. She wasn't dressing for a casual night with girlfriends. "Where are you meeting tonight?" I asked casually, leaning against the doorframe. "Downtown. That new cocktail place on 7th, she answered, applying lipstick with practiced precision. "Mind if I drop you off? I need to head that way anyway to meet a client about a showing." The slight pause in her movements was telling. "No need. Tanya's picking me up again." "Tanya's been doing a lot of driving lately," I observed. "Maybe I should meet her properly. Thank her for being such a good friend to you." "She's usually in a rush," she deflected. Another time, when her phone chimed with a text, I caught the flash of a different name on the screen before she quickly snatched it up. Not Tanya. The text preview showed only, "We're around the corn dash," before disappearing from view. After she left, I sat in my home office, thoughts racing. This wasn't paranoia anymore. The secrecy, the changes, the defensive behavior, all classic signs I'd seen before with clients going through divorces. I opened my laptop and began documenting everything: dates, times, behavior changes, spending patterns. If my suspicions were correct, I needed to be prepared. The next afternoon, I called in a favor from a former client who worked in digital security. "I need to track a phone location discreetly," I explained, hating myself for the request, seeing no alternative. That Friday, when she announced she was heading out for another girls' night, I nodded and wished her a good time. As soon as her Uber pulled away, I checked the tracking app. The location showed her heading not downtown as claimed, but toward the Lakeside District, an area known for its upscale entertainment venues and, notably, a popular swingers club that had made local headlines for its exclusive membership policy. I followed at a safe distance in my car, heart pounding in my chest. This wasn't who I was, spying, tracking, suspecting. But neither was she the woman I'd married anymore. Something had fundamentally changed, and tonight I would discover exactly what. I parked across the street, heart hammering against my ribs as I watched her step out of the Uber. The tracking app had led me to the Velvet Room, an unmarked building with tinted windows and a discreet entrance guarded by a well-dressed bouncer. Despite my research, I'd never expected to actually find myself here, watching my wife approach what was widely known as the city's most exclusive lifestyle club. She stood nervously on the sidewalk, checking her phone repeatedly. This wasn't the confident woman who'd been dismissing my concerns for weeks. She looked anxious, out of place in her too tight dress and excessive makeup. For a brief moment, I considered approaching her, demanding answers right there. But something told me to wait. 10 minutes later, a sleek black car pulled up. Two people emerged, a woman with striking red hair and a tall, athletic-looking man. The redhead immediately embraced my wife with a familiarity that went beyond casual friendship. Then, to my shock, the man pulled her into an equally intimate hug, his hands lingering far too long on her lower back. I discreetly raised my phone, recording video as the three of them spoke animatedly on the sidewalk. The body language was unmistakable, the subtle touches, the leaning in, the prolonged eye contact. Then it happened. Right there on a public street, the man leaned down and kissed my wife directly on the lips. Not a friendly peck, a real kiss that she eagerly returned. When they separated, the redhead took her turn, pulling my wife into an equally passionate exchange. My hands shook so violently, I nearly dropped the phone. The cold reality hit me like a physical blow. The girls' nights had been a complete fabrication. My wife wasn't just reconnecting with old friends. She was involved in something I never could have imagined. The woman who once blushed at suggestive TV scenes was now openly engaging in a three-way relationship. As they approached the entrance of the Velvet Room, laughing and touching with evident anticipation, I continued recording. The bouncer greeted them by name, suggesting this wasn't their first visit. The betrayal cut deeper than I could have prepared for. This wasn't a one-time mistake or a drunken error in judgment. This was calculated, ongoing deception. Once they disappeared inside, I sat motionless in my car, trying to process what I'd witnessed. 7 years of marriage reduced to lies in the span of weeks. The dutiful, loving wife I thought I knew had been replaced by a stranger seeking thrills with people she never even mentioned to me. A mix of emotions crashed through me: heartbreak, rage, humiliation. But strangely, beneath it all was something unexpected: clarity. I now had irrefutable evidence. There would be no gaslighting, no twisting the narrative, no making me question my own perceptions. I knew exactly what was happening, and knowledge was power. I drove home in a trance-like state, the recording safely backed up to my cloud storage. Once inside our house, the home we'd built together, I headed straight to my office and emailed the video to my attorney with a brief message: "Need to talk ASAP. Marriage is over." Then I made another decision, one that surprised even me. I wasn't going to just walk away quietly. I deserved better than to be discarded without consequences. The man who'd encouraged his wife to spread her wings had been rewarded with complete betrayal. This wouldn't end with me slinking away while she continued her new lifestyle. I changed into casual clothes, downed a shot of whiskey for courage, and ordered another Uber back to the Velvet Room. The determination that had made me successful in business hardened within me. I wasn't going there to beg or plead. I was going to confront this situation head-on, to look into the eyes of the people who thought they could disrespect me without repercussion. In the back of the Uber, I planned my approach carefully. No wild scenes, no uncontrolled rage. Just direct, unflinching confrontation. The club had a strict no-violence policy according to their website, but I wasn't planning physical altercation. My presence alone would be enough to shatter their little fantasy world. The Uber pulled up to the curb, and I stepped out, straightening my shoulders. The bouncer gave me an appraising look. "Membership card?" he asked gruffly. I met his gaze steadily. "I'm here to collect my wife. She's already inside." He frowned, clearly skeptical. "Name?" I gave our last name, watching his expression shift as he checked the tablet in his hand. "She's registered as a guest of existing members tonight," he said cautiously. "Are you expected?" A cold smile crossed my face. "Oh, I'm definitely unexpected. But trust me, this can't wait until morning." The bouncer hesitated, then pressed a button on his earpiece. After a brief conversation, he reluctantly stepped aside. Management says you can enter to speak with her briefly. Any disruption and you're out immediately. Understood. I nodded, stepping past him into the dimly lit entryway of the club that had become my wife's new playground. The bass from the music vibrated through the floor as I steeled myself for what would come next, a confrontation that would change all of our lives forever. The interior of the Velvet Room was exactly what you'd expect from an exclusive adult venue. Dim lighting, plush furniture, and private areas sectioned off by heavy curtains. Well-dressed people mingled with drinks in hand, many openly flirtatious in ways that would be inappropriate in regular social settings. Under any other circumstances, I might have been uncomfortable. Tonight, I was focused on one mission. I scanned the main lounge area, moving past curious glances and whispered comments. A staff member approached me, clearly sensing I wasn't a regular. "Can I help you find someone?" she asked with practiced politeness. "I'm looking for a trio," I replied coldly. "2 women and a man. One of the women is my wife." Her professional smile faltered. "Sir, this establishment values discretion." "I'm sure it does," I cut her off. "But as her legal husband, I have every right to speak with her. Point me in their direction, or I'll find them myself." Whether it was my tone or the uncomfortable legal reality I'd highlighted, she reluctantly gestured toward a hallway leading to private rooms. "Second floor, the Rose Suite. But please, we don't allow confrontations here." I moved with purpose, ignoring the concerned looks from security staff tracking my movements. The staircase led to a dimly lit corridor with numbered doors. At the end was a door marked with a rose insignia, subtle but unmistakable. Without hesitation, I pushed it open. The scene that greeted me seared itself into my memory forever. My wife was between the redhead and the man on a large sofa, all partially undressed, lost in a tangle of limbs and heated kisses. So engrossed in their activities, they didn't notice my entrance until I deliberately cleared my throat. 3 heads snapped up in shock. My wife's face drained of color, her expression morphing from confusion to horror as recognition dawned. "What the?" the man started, jumping to his feet. "Quiet," I commanded, my voice deadly calm despite the rage boiling inside me. "You don't get to speak." My wife scrambled to cover herself, mouth opening and closing without forming words. The redhead, Tanya, I presumed, pressed herself against the back of the sofa, looking trapped. "How did you?" my wife finally managed. "Find you." I finished for her. "It wasn't difficult. You've been careless. Arrogant, even. Did you really think I wouldn't eventually discover what you've been doing?" The man stepped forward, drawing himself up to his full height. "Look, buddy, you need to leave. This is a private." I didn't let him finish. Years of weekend boxing classes paid off as my right hook connected with his jaw, sending him stumbling backward over a side table. Glass shattered as he fell awkwardly to the floor. I said, "Quiet." I repeated, shaking out my hand. My wife leaped up. "Stop it. Have you lost your mind?" "Have I lost my mind?" I laughed bitterly. That's rich, coming from the woman who threw away 7 years of marriage for this pathetic arrangement. The man struggled to his feet, blood trickling from his lip. "You're dead, asshole," he slurred, lunging clumsily toward me. I sidestepped easily, landing another blow to his ribs that doubled him over. Adrenaline coursed through me, making everything crystal clear. This wasn't just about jealousy or betrayal. It was about respect, about consequences. "You've been sleeping with my wife," I stated flatly as he gasped for breath. "Did she tell you she was married? Did you know you were destroying someone's home? Or did you just not care?" Before he could answer, the door burst open. 2 security guards rushed in, quickly assessing the situation. "That's enough," the larger one barked, moving between us. "All of you, this stops now." My wife was crying hysterically now, Tanya trying awkwardly to comfort her while keeping distance from me. The pathetic scene only strengthened my resolve. "Get him out of here," the security guard ordered his colleague, pointing at me. "The rest of you, get dressed and leave separately." As the second guard gripped my arm, I shook him off. "Don't touch me. I'm leaving." I looked directly at my wife one last time. 7 years of memories flashed through my mind. Our wedding day, buying our first home, planning for a future that would never come. The woman before me now was unrecognizable. Tear-streaked makeup, disheveled hair, the remnants of the lie she'd been living. "Don't come home," I said simply. Your things will be packed and waiting on the porch tomorrow. My lawyer will contact you. Please, she sobbed, reaching toward me. Let me explain. There's nothing to explain. I cut her off. I saw everything. I have it all documented. It's over. As security escorted me out through the club and onto the street, a strange calm settled over me. The cool night air filled my lungs as I walked away from the velvet room, from my marriage, from the life I thought I had. My phone buzzed repeatedly in my pocket, her calls already starting. I silenced it without looking and ordered an Uber. Before stepping into the car, I sent her one voice message. Don't try to come home tonight. Don't call me. Don't text me. If you show up at the house, I won't let you in. Whatever we had is dead. Stay away from me. The finality in my voice surprised even me. There was no going back from this moment, and strangely, that knowledge felt like freedom. Back at the house, I worked methodically through the night. First, I changed all the locks, a service that cost extra at midnight, but felt worth every penny. Then I moved through our shared spaces, gathering her belongings into boxes and suitcases with detached precision. Clothes, jewelry, sentimental items, photos, all packed away like artifacts from a life that no longer existed. My phone continued to light up with notifications. 37 missed calls. Dozens of text messages ranging from hysterical apologies to angry accusations. I read none of them, simply forwarding each to my lawyer as additional documentation of her state of mind. Around 3 a.m., she started sending voice messages, her words slurring with what sounded like a mix of alcohol and panic. Please just let me explain. It wasn't supposed to happen like this. I never meant to hurt you. The doorbell rang repeatedly at 4 a.m. I watched through the security camera as she pounded on the door, mascara streaked down her face, still wearing the clothes from the club. I didn't move to answer it. Eventually, she slumped against the door, sobbing into her phone, likely calling one of her new friends for rescue. By morning, I had transformed our once shared home. Her presence had been methodically removed from every room. The boxes and suitcases sat neatly stacked on the covered porch, protected from the elements, but clearly waiting for removal. I sent a text to her mother, the only communication I initiated. Your daughter needs help. She can't stay here anymore. Her things are packed. I suggest you come get her. Within the hour, I met with my lawyer, a tough, no-nonsense woman who had helped several of my real estate clients through their divorces. I laid out everything, the evidence, the confrontation, the steps I'd already taken. This is one of the cleaner cases I've seen, she remarked, reviewing the video on her tablet. No children, clear evidence of infidelity, and you've been the primary earner. We'll file immediately citing adultery. I want this done quickly, I stated. I don't care about most of the stuff. She can have the furniture, the wedding gifts, whatever. I just want to be legally free of her with my finances protected. The lawyer nodded, making notes. Given the evidence, she'd be wise to accept a straightforward split. Fighting will only embarrass her further and cost money she likely doesn't have. As I left the lawyer's office, my phone buzzed with a text from her mother. We're at your house getting her things. She's staying with us. This isn't like her. I don't understand what happened. I didn't respond. What was there to say? I didn't understand it either. For the next week, I lived in a strange limbo. I went to work, showed houses, closed a major sale, and performed all the motions of normal life, while feeling completely detached from reality. My colleagues noticed the change, but respected my privacy when I deflected their concerned questions. Nights were the hardest, alone in the house with too many memories and too much silence. The attempts at contact became more strategic. First came the carefully worded apology email, crafted to hit all the right notes of remorse without actually taking full responsibility. Then the delivery of my favorite takeout food with a handwritten note. A mutual friend awkwardly reached out, clearly sent as an emissary to check on me and gauge my receptiveness to reconciliation. Each attempt met the same stone wall of silence. 10 days after the confrontation, I received formal notice that she'd hired her own lawyer. The initial settlement offer was laughable, requesting half of everything despite our prenuptial agreement and the documented infidelity. My lawyer wasn't concerned. Standard opening position, she assured me. They'll back down when we counter with the evidence packet. She was right. The next communication came directly from her rather than through legal channels. A desperate plea sent to my personal email. I know I've lost the right to ask anything of you. but please don't show that video to anyone else. My parents don't need to see that. I'll sign whatever you want. Just please don't destroy what's left of my reputation." For the first time, I felt a twinge of something beyond anger and hurt. Not quite pity, but a recognition of how completely she'd imploded her life for a fleeting thrill. I forwarded the email to my lawyer with a brief note. "I'm not interested in public humiliation. I just want this over with." The revised settlement terms came through the next day. She would vacate any claim to the house, our joint investments, and my business interests. In exchange, she would receive a modest one-time payment and her personal property. No alimony, no ongoing financial entanglement. A clean break. As I signed the papers, a strange sense of peace settled over me. The woman I'd loved for 7 years, who I'd supported and encouraged to spread her wings, had flown straight into a fire of her own making. Now she wanted protection from the consequences of her choices. But consequences, I had learned, were the one thing in life that couldn't be negotiated away. That evening, a final text came through. "I'll always regret what I did to us. Someday I hope you can forgive me." I sat on my back porch, watching the sunset with a glass of whiskey. For the first time in weeks, I allowed myself to really feel the full weight of what had happened. The betrayal, the loss, the abrupt ending of the future we'd planned together. But beneath the pain was something unexpected, a foundation of self-respect that had remained unshaken. I typed my final response with steady hands. "I don't hate you. I don't wish you ill. But there is no us anymore. Don't contact me again." Then I blocked her number, finished my drink, and went inside to continue building my new life. Alone, but unbroken. 6 months after signing the divorce papers, I stood in the doorway of my new condo downtown, keys in hand. The move had been practical rather than emotional. The house held too many memories, and the real estate market had presented a perfect opportunity to sell high and invest in a property closer to my expanding business. Life had taken on a new rhythm. My real estate firm had grown, adding 2 junior agents under my supervision. The divorce settlement had been finalized without further drama, though I occasionally heard whispers about her through mutual acquaintances. She'd moved to another city, apparently struggling to rebuild her life after the scandal touched our social circle. The redhead and her boyfriend had broken up with her shortly after the confrontation, fair-weather friends who vanished when things got complicated. I was sharing a drink with a colleague after closing a major commercial property deal when he awkwardly cleared his throat. "I ran into your ex last weekend. She was back in town visiting her parents." I took a measured sip of my whiskey. "Is that so? She asked about you," he continued cautiously. "Wanted to know if you were seeing anyone new." I shrugged. "And what did you tell her?" "The truth. That you seem to be doing better than ever, focused on your business, and that your personal life is your business." He studied my reaction. "Was that okay?" "Perfect," I replied, genuinely appreciative of his discretion. The truth was more complex than the brave face I presented to the world. There had been dates, a few connections made through friends or business networks. Some had been pleasant enough, but I approached each with a newfound caution that made true intimacy difficult. The betrayal had left scars that were still healing. That evening, arriving home to my condo with its floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city, I found an envelope that had been slipped under my door. No postmark, no return address, just my name written in a painfully familiar handwriting. For a long moment, I considered throwing it away unopened. The clean break had been working. Why invite the past back in? But something, curiosity, closure, or perhaps just the human need to understand, made me tear open the envelope. Inside was a handwritten letter on expensive stationery. "I know I have no right to reach out to you. I've respected your wishes for no contact these past months, but I'm back in town clearing out the last of my things from my parents' house before they move, and I couldn't leave without saying what needs to be said. I destroyed something beautiful and irreplaceable because I was selfish and reckless. The life we built together was everything I could have wanted, but I convinced myself I was missing out on some exciting alternative reality. That fantasy collapsed immediately after you walked away. The people I threw away our marriage for weren't worth a fraction of what we had. I'm not asking for reconciliation. I know that door is permanently closed, and I accept full responsibility for closing it. I just want you to know that I understand now what I gave up. The stability, the respect, the partnership of a good man who supported me in every way. You gave me everything, and I repaid you with betrayal. There's no excuse for that. I've had to rebuild my life from scratch, and it's been the hardest thing I've ever done. But the hardest part wasn't losing our home or the financial security. It was losing the one person who truly cared about me, who wanted the best for me. I didn't value that until it was gone. I hope you're finding happiness, or at least peace. You deserve that, and so much more. With deepest regret and respect. Her signature at the bottom looked smaller somehow, less confident than I remembered. I folded the letter carefully, returning it to its envelope. The expected emotions, anger, hurt, vindication, didn't come. Instead, there was only a calm acceptance. Her words changed nothing about our past or my future. The next morning, I drove to her parents' neighborhood, knowing they were in the final stages of packing for their retirement move. I had no interest in seeing her, but the letter demanded some form of acknowledgement. A final closing of the door she had correctly identified as permanently shut. I saw her car in the driveway and parked across the street. Taking out my business card, I wrote on the back, "Letter received. I wish you healing and a better future. Goodbye." No signature needed. As I approached to leave it on her windshield, the front door opened. She stepped out, looking thinner than I remembered, her face more serious. Our eyes met across the lawn, and for a moment, time seemed suspended between us, the weight of our shared history and separate futures hanging in the air. I placed the card deliberately under her wiper, nodded once in her direction, and turned back toward my car without waiting for a response. Whatever words she might have called after me were lost to the wind as I drove away. That night, hosting a small dinner for my business partners at my new place, one of them commented on the change in me over the past year. "You seem different," he observed. "More focused, maybe. More confident." I considered this as I poured another round of drinks. "I learned some valuable lessons," I replied. "About self-respect. About not compromising on what matters. Well, whatever happened, it's working for you. The business is thriving, and you seem, I don't know, more solid somehow." Later, standing alone on my balcony while the others continued their conversation inside, I reflected on his observation. The destruction of my marriage had forced me to rebuild not just my life, but my understanding of myself. The man who had encouraged his wife to find her own identity had found his own strength in the process. The city lights spread out before me like possibilities. Tomorrow would bring new clients, new properties, perhaps eventually new relationships. But tonight, in this moment of quiet reflection, I recognized the most important truth I'd learned through all of this. I had emerged not just intact, but stronger. Not because I'd fought harder or hurt her back, but because I'd refused to be diminished by someone else's choices. The real estate I'd truly reclaimed wasn't measured in square footage or property values. It was the space I occupied in my own life. Unapologetic, uncompromised, and finally, completely my own.
Our story has come to an end. If you've made it this far, how about subscribing to our channel? It helps us immensely. I've selected 2 other videos for you that I'm sure you'll enjoy. Feel free to click on them. I'll be waiting for you in the next story. See you soon.